Over $14 billion is spent yearly in the United States on medical research, and often the results are dramatic.
For the first time, researchers are saying they have evidence that AZT can actually prevent the spread of AIDS.
In the search for new drugs, we turn to probability. Probability helps us to determine the safety and effectiveness of new medicines.
Scientists say the new test should be a great help in finding better treatments or a cure.
Susan Ellenberg is a division director at the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Her department designs and evaluates studies of new vaccines. She remembers what was possibly the most famous application of statistics to fight disease, the polio vaccine trials of the 1950s.
I ran the numbers, but I'm not sure that I did it right.
Anybody who was around back then will remember there was enormous concern. Everyone was very fearful about polio. People wouldn't let their kids go swimming. It was one of the most fearful diseases.
Between 1916 and the 1950s, something mysterious and terrible was happening to America's children. Without warning, infants and young people would begin to experience excruciating muscle pain and stiffness in the neck. Those afflicted by the symptoms might lose the use of their limbs or become paralyzed. In some cases, they might even die. Polio, as the disease was called, claimed many hundreds of thousands of young victims in the United States. And with the baby boom, the epidemic threatened even more harm.
In a way, this was a time period when American society was very closely attuned to polio as a problem. After all, it was the post-World War II era. There were a massive growth in the number of children being born in America and a concern about their health and safety.
In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a city of smoke and steel, there came a glimmer of hope. Dr. Jonas Salk believed he'd found a vaccine, and he set out to test his medicine. To ensure that his tests were accurate, Salk relied on careful statistical methodology. In 1954, 1.8 million school children would partake in the trial, the largest of its kind in history. The children were separated into two groups at random. Because of the random assignments, the laws of probability practically guaranteed that the two groups would be nearly identical, and that sameness would help Salk track the effects of his new drug. For example, if Salk did nothing and just watched the groups, according to the laws of probability, both groups would come down with roughly the same number of polio cases. If, on the other hand, Salk gave one group his vaccine and they had fewer cases of polio, this might mean that his drug worked, and probability would help him to gauge its effectiveness.
You needed to have children treated at the same point in time and be able to say, did the group that got the vaccine have fewer cases of polio than the group that didn't get the vaccine?
As the Salk trial progressed, it did appear as if the group that got the vaccine had fewer instances of polio. To be certain the success rate was due to the drug and not just chance, Salk's data was subjected to statistical analysis. To assess the data, the researchers focused their attention on the total number of polio cases reported in both groups. If the difference between groups was small, so small that it could be near chance, the vaccine would be found not to be effective. As the researchers tabulated the data, they found that the differences were so great that they could not be attributed to chance. The vaccine had proven an overwhelming success.
In many ways, I think, the Salk development of the vaccine represents an ideal, a high point of both the faith in medical science and the ability of medical science to produce. And in a way, I think, ever since the 1950s, medical science has aspired to that ideal of the Salk vaccine trials.
Today, clinical trials are conducted at the National Institutes of Health Clinical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. Over 900 trials are conducted here each year. Just like the Salk trial, participants are assembled into groups. Today, random numbers are used to decide who gets a drug and who gets a neutral substance, called a placebo. Doctors are still responsible for monitoring and recording the well-being of their patients.
That's right, it doesn't turn around all the way.
But the true key of a drug's success will be derived from the numbers.
The FDA, in deciding whether a new drug or new product can be approved, needs to see the data. We have to say, show me your results. Show me that you did a valid study, and show me that the results really show, one, that this product is safe, and two, that it works.
Under the power of statistical analysis, we can develop new drugs to help battle disease. Statistics can also be used to protect us in the face of uncertainty.